No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
We know that Saturday night is all right for fighting, but apparently it's also all right for shootouts. As for the second consecutive Saturday, the Winnipeg Jets head to a shootout. This time, they're on the losing end of the skills competition. Matvei Michkov, the only goal scored in the shootout, giving the Philadelphia Flyers a 2-1 victory over the Winnipeg Jets. It was not the most picturesque, pretty hockey game on Saturday night in downtown Winnipeg, but the Jets will take their 1 point, having dominated the overtime, but fallen at the hands of an unexpected savior of the Flyers, goaltender Fedotov. Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show with Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg. I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to discuss the Jets and the Flyers, tonight's contest in downtown Winnipeg. Gentlemen, good to see you both on this Saturday night.
What's up, boys? Yeah, 2 games in a row here where the Jets get goal lead. Obviously, I think we'd agree that this game was much closer. The effort by the Flyers was much more impressive than the Predators, not to take anything away from them, but we talked about UC Saros really stole the show. Drew anointed him the first star of the game, which we thought was a little bit contentious. I'm obviously joking. He was clearly the first star last game, but I mean, had Ivan Fedotov, pardon me. I want to call him Fedotov, his hockey DB. He's 28 years old. Like, people might not know this, but like, he's not like a 20, 21-year-old goalie. No. Just go to his hockey DB and look at his stats in the Russian league. Like, he was drafted back in 2015. Dave M and I were there in South Florida. No big deal. Gallivanting around Boca Raton, Florida in the BMW. But so Fedotov comes with an impressive pedigree in the Continental Hockey League, right? So his numbers, I like to look a little bit, you know me, Drew, I like to go a little bit deeper into the stats. His .883 save percentage going into this game, I texted Dave, like, this could be a long night for Fedotov. I'm going to say that a couple times.
I actually wrote it down, Ezzy, so you might want to write it down. I wrote down a little so that I got it spelled out phonetically here.
I think the reason why I'm saying that is because I keep thinking of Ruslan Fedotenko. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I keep thinking of. Former Pittsburgh Penguin, and I think he also played for the Flyers, actually. But Fedotov, there I said it right, was excellent tonight, guys. That save that he made on Nikolai Ehlers on the power play, the glove save, and then he obviously made it a little bit more dramatic maybe than it needed to be, but he was excellent tonight. Obviously, Noah Cates. It originally looked like
honorary Illegal Curve member Noah Cates.
Yes, Noah Cates. He is, I think, a member of the tribe. If he isn't, we'll make him one.
Yeah.
But look, the Flyers were desperate. Like, they're trying to stay relevant in that Eastern Conference playoff race. They're going to have to jump a lot of teams. But I thought, look, the Jets didn't have, the best first couple of periods. They were being pretty badly outshot in the first period. I think it was 9-2. Then they started to turn it on late in the first period. So look, and they got the late power play opportunities, and they weren't able to capitalize, guys. And obviously, that's a big narrative here in Jets land. No power play goals in the last 6 games, Dave.
Yeah, they're over 16 now, and there's no question. Like, look, I know that folks want to hit the panic button. The Jets could have won this game. You credit the opposition netminders. See, that's a smarter way of, so I don't avoid mispronouncing it, Ezzy.
So you don't have to say his name.
Exactly.
Coward.
The Washington Capitals have now lost 3 in a row. So, I mean, again, the top teams in the NHL are allowed to lose games. You don't like it. I mean, look, the concern would be for me. Look, the Philadelphia Flyers are a team in desperate need of points. So I like the way they played the Jets. Anthony, we had him on. Anthony Sanfilippo was on this morning. He said they're going to play the Jets well. He expected them to take at least 1 of 2 in the next 6 games, because I guess they play again on Thursday. But the concern is just that the power play looks a little sluggish. It's not moving the puck the way it is. It's looking a little bit predictable. And then the question becomes, are you adjusting to other teams' adjustments to what you're doing? because maybe I thought Philadelphia seemed to know where the passes were going, and I don't think it's simply because of good anticipation. You wonder, I mean, again, they have game tape on the Jets. They're clearly, planning for what they expect Winnipeg to do. And one of the things about Winnipeg, it's been so good, is the speed, the efficiency, and the uncertainty they've left their opponents with. So, yeah, I mean, look, over 16 in their last 3 or 4 games, whatever the number is, Drew, it maybe a little bit longer. That is a little bit of is 6 games. So there you go, over 16 in the last 6 games. And it's unfortunate in the sense that you had a chance to win the game, really, because, that was 2 late penalties. Morgan Barron, credit to him for drawing them as. Yep. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where, and also, like I saw in the chat, this is game 3 of 4 in 4 nights. So I'm not trying to make excuses. I want to be clear, but I thought, again, like, to me, at this point of the year, I'm not so concerned about the results as much as some of the processes. And for me, the power play lack of power is the bigger concern overall than losing 1 point.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the power play, I thought they had trouble they certainly possessed it, but it was all on the exterior. Of course, you mentioned Ehlers, that great save by Fedotov off Nikolai Ehlers. That was really the only time they were able to penetrate the box, which is really not that did not come out the way I meant it to come out there.
Get your mind out of the gutter, Mindell.
Seriously, sorry. But that, the Jets obviously had a possession on that power play for a lot of the time, but it was all on the exterior. They were having trouble doing the one-touch passing that we've seen them so successfully with. And even, Gabe Vilardi down in his office right next to the blue paint hasn't been able to set up there lately as well as he has. Here's Scott Arneal.
You guys finished with 73 shot attempts. What made it so hard to get more than just that one goal?
Well, the goaltender has a lot to do with it. Obviously another team that, this team does a real good job of trying to get in shot lanes. And, I mean, that if we're sitting here saying we didn't even attempt to shoot the puck and whatever. You can't criticize when guys are taking that many opportunities and getting that many looks. Earlier 2 weeks ago or earlier in the year, all that stuff was going in, especially if we got that much quantity. Last few games there, goaltenders have made stops, and we've gotten snake bitten a couple of times, and for us, that's just stay with it, stick with what we're doing, and some of those will start to go in.
On overtime, you guys have been such a good team when it gets to overtime and finishing up. Do you find teams are maybe playing you guys a little different, almost taking on a more defensive stance against you?
I think not necessarily. I still think the best players are coming over the boards for them, for the opposition team. When you don't have the puck, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do. You can't get aggressive. You can't. It's hard. You have to sit and wait for your opportunity to stab and to try to get the puck back. That might be off a missed shot. It might be off maybe an errant pass, whatever it is. It doesn't matter really. I mean, if we don't have the puck, and we just had the puck the whole time, and it just felt like, and then KC gets that glorious chance. I think it hit one of their forwards, and then in the crease. So those are things that, they, as the season goes, they go your way and they bounce the other way at times, and just stick with what we're doing.
How much are you looking forward to now, at least having a couple days before your next game? Because this was 5 and 8 and sort of 2 one-game homestands, 2 one-game road trip mixed in, all out of the Four Nations break.
Yeah. Everybody's going through it. Like I've mentioned all year, this schedule is crazy. It's just what you have to kind of endure. And for us, it's just making sure when you're in these situations that you simplify kind of how you play. I thought there was tonight early on, there was some chances where we could have shot the puck where we tried to make one more play, things like that. But again, you're running into teams that are going through the same thing, and you just try to, as much as you can. That's why we got to use the bench, and we got to use everybody if possible.
Those 2 late power plays in the third period were a great chance to seal a game. We talked to Nikolai Ehlers, who said that he thinks the passing needs to be better with the power play. What did you see on that front in the puck movement there?
I thought we had some great looks. Again, just like last night. 2 nights ago. I thought we had some great looks. He had a glorious one right there, and we had a few that were, real tight, real close. Whatever. I'm not criticizing our power play. Our power play has been exceptional. Right now, the last 2 games, I thought in Ottawa it wasn't what it needed to be. I thought the last 2 games we were dangerous. Spent the whole time in their end of the rink.
And just a matter of poor puck luck as to why you haven't been able to convert?
That's all part of it. There's good goaltending. There's other people getting their sticks on plays. These are sort of the things that happen over the course of the season, whether it's your power play or whether it's our 5-on-5 scoring. These are kind of the ebbs and flows that happen throughout the season. It's just sticking with it. We don't get frustrated by situations like this. We just kind of move on. When we get our next chance, we look to bury that puck.
What are your thoughts on Logan Stanley? Standing up there with.
He's taking on a heavy. Stan's a big guy. He's taking on one of the heavies in the league, and kudos to him. That was real good to see.
Scott, Morgan Barron returned to the lineup tonight and drew 2 penalties late. You didn't convert on them, but what did you think of his impact?
No, I thought I hadn't played in a while. It can be getting a game like that's quick. I thought he was real good, and like you said, he drew those penalties. Would have been nice if we had scored for him and got him one. But at the end of the day, they did a lot of what we needed. I think that once he continues to get back up to game speed, you can't emulate it in practice or extra skating. So him just getting those reps, is important. It's also some fresh legs for us tonight, which certainly helped. Good. Thank you.
There he goes, Winnipeg Jets head coach Scott Arniel joining us tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show, of course, coming to us from the Matt Frost Media Center. Jets dropped the 2-1 decision to the Philadelphia Flyers in the shootout, not for a lack of opportunities, particularly in the overtime period where the Jets controlled the puck for, what did you say, 4 minutes and 40 seconds of the 5 minutes of
at
overtime?
Least. Yeah, they had it almost, except for the face off in their end and maybe one other time, they had the puck almost the entire overtime.
Yeah, it was just odd. It was tilted. The third period, I mean, you can see from Scott Arniel's perspective. Sure, of course, the Jets want to win every game, but Scott Arniel's, and he's right. That the way the Jets have played the last 2 games, albeit both of these games that have been in defeat, have been on the right side of the ledger. I know the process, is talk is for losers, and admittedly that would be the case if this was game 61 and the Jets were out of a playoff spot. But right now, that's really what the Jets are at. They want to make sure their process is right moving forward for the remainder of the 21 games of this regular season, because we know where they are in the standings, and we know that as long as they continue to play decent hockey, similar to how they played Thursday, similar how they played the latter half of tonight's game, they're going to rack up more wins than losses, and they'll be in a good spot come playoff time. That's, I think, the overarching message you can take from the Jets head coach is that, right now we're running into a couple of hot goaltenders in a row, that they're doing some good things against us, but more or less, especially later in this game, the Jets game was the way it wanted to look.
Absolutely. And, we talk about it all the time, but again, you got those 2 late power play opportunities. You could have easily won the game with less than 5 minutes left, right? And, I think, we all watched the game, so none of us really liked the first period. They were sluggish, they were sloppy. But, the Flyers were more desperate. And sometimes, it's just that little, look, they block shots, right? John Tortorella, you could see how happy he was on the bench with all of those blocked shots, right? And, at the end of the day, they have talented players, and it came down to a coin flip. That's what the shootout is. It's a coin flip. Let's not call it anything else aside from that. And Michkov had a really nice move, and Travis Konechny did not. We were talking about it before we went live. That was one of the worst shootout attempts I think you're ever going to see. He kind of gave up. It's like, okay, Hellebuck isn't biting here. I'm just going to shoot it into his pads. That's what it looked like from our perspective, right, boys? But I think
you guys this. Sorry, Yazzie. Let me ask you guys this question. Are you guys surprised that Gabe Vilardi never gets any 3-on-3 time?
He's not fast, though. He's slow.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the speed would be the reason why that would be, maybe.
Although, I mean, they use Perfetti, but I mean,
and they're using the Mesnikov. I mean, today, I mean,
the Mesnikov's faster than Perfetti.
I know, but I'm surprised that Vilardi doesn't get any sniff at 3-on-3 overtime at all, especially when you go a full 5 minutes. Not that he's going to.
It's a valid question, though. I mean,
he's option over the boards.
At the end of the day, Dave is right. I mean, Vilardi is not, even though he's 6'3", he's not one of the fastest guys on the team. He is one of the best goal scorers on the team, though. And so I think that's, it's valid, Drew, to bring that up, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, you'd have to ask the coaching staff because they're the ones that would have a much more astute answer. Pardon the alliteration there. But
I just think after in a 5-minute overtime, at some point in time, his size and his physicality, not that there's a lot of body checking, but just the ability that he can to body a player off and use the leverage and things of that nature might be effective. Just as one of maybe your second or your third option or your fourth option over the boards. I'm surprised. Exactly. Julian.
The other thing I was going to say, Drew,
at overtime.
Lowry only does that for, as I wrote back.
Yeah,
I mean, Lowry's
he's a
only
face-off
there for
guy.
face. He's only there for
fine,
the
that's
face.
fair.
And at the end of the day, I mean, you could make the argument there's more ice out there. So, I mean, he has more time to maneuver and, maybe, he gets the right time and space and he can use those hands and he has a good shot. So, again, the coaching staff most likely has their reasons. I think Dave is right. I think speed would probably be a factor. And the Jets have a lot of options, right? Like Nemesnikov is a good option in 3-on-3 overtime. But at the end of the day, like the Jets dominated that overtime, and Kyle Connor looks like he scored. And didn't Scheifele hit the post, or Fedotov got a piece of it and looked like it hit at least Harner Singh? And sorry, as an aside, Harner Singh and John Garrett, they're a great duo. I really enjoyed them. Harner Ryan usually does the games, or at least last year, I'm not sure. He was usually with Louis DeBrusque. But Harner Ryan and John Garrett, I thought John Garrett made several good points, including the Jets have never faced Fedotov before. So they don't have a book on him when it comes to the shootout, for example. And Hellebuck, guys, I'm sure you heard this as well, hadn't been in a shootout since 2023.
Well,
kind of bizarre, right?
They've only had 3. I mean, they've had 2 in the last week.
Right.
Before that, it wasn't until it was October, or what did we say? No, maybe November of 2023 against the Habs is what it was. The last one.
I think it was October, Drew.
Maybe it was early in the season.
Yeah, it was the first month, I think.
Yeah. I do like John Garrett also. First of all, John Garrett brings back memories of the old days because he used to do the games when the games were on
Harry Neal. Yeah.
Well, no, even before that, I think he used to do games when the games were on CKND. If I recall correctly. I'm not sure if Joe Pascucci's in the chat tonight or not, but Joe can maybe let us know if I'm correct about that. But I think when they just remember when games weren't broadcast, when every game wasn't on TV, and there was a handful of games a year. I think John Garrett used to do color on those games to some way back when.
Well, Drew, you're old enough to remember when the games were in black and white.
That's true, of course. And I just like that he's a little bit grumpy. He's a little bit, but at the same time, he's awesome. He's funny at the same time.
He did not appreciate Harner Ryan's suggestion to pull the goaltender with 8 seconds left in the game. As a member of the goalie union.
Yeah.
But they were talking about how Sean Reynolds is a good cook. Like, that's hilarious.
When they're talking about a man is never. Yeah, you were still at the game at that point. They were talking about.
Dave was in the arena press box. No big deal.
Some cooking show that I'm not familiar with. Harner Ryan was reading a promo for some cooking show, and John Garrett's like, "Did you know that a man has never won that cooking show? I know this because I watch this every single season." And I'm like, "Okay, John, relax." But it was pretty funny at the same time.
Let's get John Garrett on the show. I think he'd be great.
Yeah, that was also a good one. You would have loved that one, Dave. I don't know if you were home in time for when he was complaining about Ron McLean changing the 3 stars on him.
Yeah, because we often have the 3 stars changed on us. So I definitely can empathize with that one.
I thought you would.
Well, more specifically, you do, because Drew and I don't go to many games anymore. In the press box,
we're a unit. When I do something, it's for all of us.
That's beautiful. That brings a tear to my eye. I'm going to press a button now. It's the game recap. So when I press it, it's like I'm doing it for all of us as well.
The Play Now game recap.
Big thanks to our friends at Play Now for their continued support and title sponsorship of all of our programming. Don't bet on illegal sites. Bet with Play Now instead. Keep your money in Manitoba. Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. The Jets open the scoring in tonight's game. 9:58 mark. So just before the halfway point of the first period, Mark Scheifele gets his 34th of the year, assist to Gabe Vilardi and Kyle Connor. And that line was buzzing early on in this game. They had some good zone time, and they were able to have the Flyers on their heels. And Mark Scheifele, as he is so adept at doing, just sort of quietly steps away from Cam York, and the puck gets over to him from Vilardi, and Scheifele makes no mistake, getting it past Fedotov, the only time the Jets would get a puck past Fedotov in the course of the game. But Mark Scheifele is just so wise at finding those soft spots on the ice. And you could see Cam York, just sort of looked up. He's like, wait, where did Scheifele go? How is he over there? And before he was able to react, the puck was behind Fedotov in the net to give the Jets the 1-0 lead. As
Drew, Scheifele's goal seemed like it happened like this afternoon. It was so long ago. It was, it's a couple of games in a row here where we're not getting a lot of goals, unfortunately, to talk about for the Jets. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, Scheifele just kind of evades Cam York. Cam York just isn't tight enough on him. And we know Scheifele, with his quick feet, he can, all he needs is a little bit of space and he can get open, right? Great work by Kyle Connor. He goes behind the net and takes Bobby Brink, I believe. I had it written down in my notes here with him. And it was prior to that, it was just a good cycle between Velarde and Connor. But I think the main thing with this goal is that, Scheifele just manages to get away from Cam York and just a nice quick release. And it was the Jets' only goal, but it was a pretty nice one, Dave.
The question is Drew going to give it the shot of the game, or is he going to just ignore it? And
I think he's going to give Travis Konechny the shot of the game.
That's right. The shootout attempt by Travis Konechny is going to be the Seagram shot of the game. Okay, fine. I'll press the button.
The Seagram shot of the game.
I mean, Drysdale's shot, which is going to be the second goal we talk about, was actually the better of the two shots because
you should. Then why'd you succumb to peer pressure there, Drew?
To be perfectly honest, I pressed the button. I'm done with it. I don't have to worry about it. I just say thank you to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support, and then we move on. Thank you for reminding me, Dave. I'm so used to this Jets team, which has been so prolific in scoring, putting multiple goals on the board, that I don't have to really immediately go to the Seagram shot of the game button this early in the game recap. It's it didn't feel a little bit awkward having to do it so quickly, but nonetheless, I did it for you, thanks to you and your suggestion.
Well, I think as described the goal, but it's, to me, what's interesting is that it's only the second shot of the game for the Winnipeg Jets. So it kind of felt like they've only got two shots. They've got a goal now. It's 10 minutes into the first. And like, as he said, you're playing a goaltender who hasn't won since November, right, of 2024, little while ago. So you think like, oh, this isn't going to be, and honestly, one of the things I thought was interesting is, was there any extra motivation for Kyle Connor facing John Tortorella? And I'm not saying it was Tortorella's decision for him not to play in the championship game of Four Nations, but I don't know. It just seemed like, even like Kyle Connor, how he came out in the morning in the warm-up, guys. I mean, he wasn't wearing a helmet. I thought that's weird. And sometimes guys are just trying to change up their routine, but you wonder, is there something behind it? And he seemed motivated, right? Like Drew said, there were a lot of the top line was getting a lot of chances. They were moving around quite a bit. So there was a part of me that speculated, and like, he made a nice move behind the net to kind of get that in front, right, boys, by using his speed. So again, like I said, I don't know if there's anything to it. And Mark Scheifele scores his 34th. The amazing thing is he's already got the third most goals he's ever scored. 42 is his career high, I think. And that was 2 years ago. So we'll see.
He's likely breaking that, Dave. He's going to hit that for sure. Past that.
Yeah, well, the expectation is he'll hit around 45. So he probably should be able to beat his career high. And it looked like the Jets were going to steamroll the Flyers because we knew how desperate they were for points. And the one thing about the Flyers that I guess we could have asked Anthony, I'm not sure. I was trying to figure out if they were a high volume shooting team or not, because it sure seemed like early in the first, and Connor Hellebuck was excellent. And as you mentioned, Travis Sanheim, Adam Lowry wasn't going to use the word frick when he told Travis Sanheim not to spear his goaltender. It was quite, I don't know if they showed how much of the replay they showed on the broadcast, but in the arena, let's just say the captain was less than pleased with the Elkhorn, Manitoba product, giving his goaltender the gears after Connor Hellebuck made one of the early saves in that first period.
Hang on. I'm getting a report in from the arena that Logan Stanley and Nick Delorier are still dancing with each other at center ice leading up for that fight. They're now tangoing, and I believe up next is a waltz between the two of them.
I was going to say foxtrot.
Okay, yeah.
That was not, let's put it this way. That was not Ty Domi versus Bob Probert. Even though they're both big boys, and there was a lot of dancing, not a lot of punches thrown. Also, it seemed like it had nothing to do with the play. So obviously Delorier, they asked them, they go, "Are you going to give me one?" Or they say stuff like that on the ice, right? Because I've been in so many fights on the ice, right, guys? but that was not a great fight.
The fights you get into on the ice are when you slip and fall while carrying a pizza on the ice, and then you start fighting the ice.
Yeah, it's
similar.
That actually sounds like a great idea, just to bring a large pizza onto the ice. I don't play rec hockey anymore. I haven't for a while, but that wasn't a great fight. But just going back to what Dave said, like, it wasn't a great first period. They were being badly outshot. Like I mentioned, it was 9-2 or 8-2, kind of halfway through the game. And you like the play of Scheifele's line. I like the play of the Nemesnikov line. Like we talked about Morgan Barron. I think he only played about 8.5 minutes. But he drew 2 penalties and he was noticeable. I think I checked and he finished with 4 hits, right? He's a guy that we know, provides a little bit of that physicality on the fourth line. But there was just there was a bit of a spark missing in this game, I thought, for the Jets. And again, let's not forget, guys, the Jets lost this game, but they actually gained a point on the Washington Capitals for first place in the NHL. So they're still 4 points clear of the Caps for first place. I think it's important to keep this into context here. The Jets won 11 games in a row, so they're allowed to go 1-0-1 in their next 2.
0-1-1.
Pardon me, 0-1-1 is what I meant to say. Thank you, Drew. And so, it's nothing to get too upset about. Like we said, gets to overtime. The Jets possessed the puck for about 4.5 minutes of the 5 minutes. There was lots of good chances. I also wanted to mention, back to what Dave said about Kyle Connor kind of being a little bit more motivated, maybe with facing Torts, who was obviously on the American coaching staff as an assistant. We don't have to ask him how many assistants he had, Dave, because Mike Sullivan would be the one that we would ask that question about. Anybody who goes back to the TSN 1290 days knows what I'm making a reference to there. Kyle Connor, look, on the power play, he had the puck, things were going through him. They were looking for Scheifele. They were looking for Ehlers. They were just missing the net a lot. And the power play it's Captain Obvious to say, Dave, that they're not executing. When you go 0 for 16, they're obviously not executing. But there was one chance, I think it was the second power play, the Ristolainen penalty. Remember when Morrissey just kind of ripped into a shot, which I thought was kind of uncharacteristic. It's just the power play just isn't as crispy as Dave M likes to say. And I'm not worried about it because they're still, getting the looks and, they're getting the zone time. But I mean, you got to start to pick it up a little bit, because those power play opportunities, to me, where you could make the argument that was the difference in the game, that they couldn't capitalize on those.
Yeah, sure. If you get 2 power play opportunities in the last 5 minutes of the game and you don't score, that's the definition of a missed opportunity. I mean, and so the Jets will rue that, but it just sort of speaks to the struggles of the power player going through right now, Dave.
Yeah, no. And I mean, it's funny. I feel like we're all over the place because we're talking about, I'm talking about this, then we're talking about this. No, but I'm just saying, I want to just mention that fight. Because
I would blame Mindell.
There were 2 goals. There were 2 goals in the entirety of the game. We got to stretch this out a little bit.
We can break down that Travis Konechny shootout attempt again, guys, because
after this, we're talking about Ilya Sorokin's goal next. So I mean, we're gonna.
There were 2 goals. Apparently, no, there was a second goal scored tonight. I don't know if it was in the AHL or in the NHL, but there were 2 goalie goals similar to, I think it was the other one was in the AHL, but there was a second goalie goal.
Did you see the Sorokin one?
I saw the Sorokin one.
And that was rock bottom for the Predators then.
Well, and it was Stamkos who did it. But anyways, it doesn't matter. We'll
get score. I wasn't sure if he could still score or not, but I guess we now know that he can score into his own goal.
By the way, before since we're sidebarring all over the place, big shout out to the crowd tonight. Crowd was awesome. And I know it was short of a sellout. I think it was like 14-8 tonight, but they were awesome. Like, they were not the only thing mistake was that they got drowned out by the music every once in a while. Like, they were singing and all of a sudden the music would come on. I was like, no, let the crowd sing. So I got to give the crowd credit. They were really good. And that fight was weird. Like, it kind of came out of nowhere. And then they twirled around center ice for I was like, are you guys doing pirouettes? Like, what the hell's going on here? Are we watching a fight or are we watching ice dancing?
On ice.
Yeah, honestly, it was bizarre. And then the weirdest part was, then they drop them. They finally start to go, as they kind of were measuring the other guy up. And I was like, okay, let's go. And then the weirdest part was, after the fight, they kind of started smiling. It was just almost like, yeah, okay, that was cool. And it was like, what did I just watch? I have no idea. But to paraphrase my brother, worst fight ever. It really was bad. So that was, but there really wasn't, as he's right, it was a bit of a disjointed first. There were things to talk about, but it wasn't, including the stat that showed that, for the folks who are losing their minds over the Jets, losing a point and being, winless, I guess, in their last 2 games, the Jets remain in first place, as said, and he's right. And they've been in first place for 60% of the season, 89 days. The Jets have been in first place. So while folks are, I guess, and look, there's always reasons, and we'll see how the Jets respond in their next game is Tuesday night, right, Drew?
Yeah, Tuesday in Long Island against the Islanders.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see how they respond, but they'll take, it's very bizarre scheduling also. They had all these practices listed. They had a practice on Friday. I'm like, after a back-to-back, you're going to practice. Of course, they canceled it. They have practice tomorrow, which, as the question was asked in the post game, it's like, we've played 3 and 4 and 5 and 8. And I'm thinking there's no chance they're going to practice tomorrow. So I believe.
Well, and then they have 3 and 4 coming up, right?
Yeah. So they're going to most likely cancel. And then I believe they'll probably skate on Monday before.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Before they take off for Long Island.
And one other thing I wanted to mention, Drew, about the first period, because obviously we don't have a lot of goals to talk about tonight. The Drysdale goal, of course, came in the middle frame, but wanted to say that there was a really interesting sequence where after the Perfetti slashing penalty, Travis Konechny had that really good chance. He hit the post, and then the play went back, and Kyle Connor had that breakaway. It's almost like Kyle Connor he out stick handled himself. If you remember, like he did his normal like forehand, backhand. So I just wanted to mention that
stick
too.
Handling works, yeah.
Yeah, no, well, yeah. Well, when I'm stick handling, it's just forehand.
Fall. Forehand, fall.
And then I take a bite of my pizza that I have on the ice.
It's a good thing you had it on the ice with you.
But although actually, we should mention that on the PK, the best chances in the Flyers power play opportunity. Well, I mean, what's the name had a breakaway, but the first chance was the Kyle Connor one that, as he just mentioned, and then also Morgan Barron had a great chance on the rebound. So, and Adam Lowry,
yes. I have that in my notes, Dave.
Yeah, I'm saying, and Adam Lowry just was a shade, missed it by about a second, where he would have had at least a partial break. So the one thing I will say again, the PK continues to look pretty good, and that's a positive, because that was the area that I personally said that the Jets needed to show improvement in, and they've definitely done that of late.
And just one more thing to throw in there, because I think Rasmus Ristolainen ended up with 7 shots. I know that I was tracking.
This is a good stat by Ezzy.
Well, at one point,
7 is correct.
Early in the second period, Ristolainen had 6 shots, and the entire Jets team had 8 shots. So that just shows you a little bit how absurd that was. But, there's a lot of talk about Rasmus Ristolainen being an option for the Jets. I know our old buddy Brandon Rewicki, who's a Flyers fan, of course. He was saying that Ristolainen would be a good fit on Winnipeg Sports Talk with Husson Remus. And then obviously Scott Lawton, a.k.a. the curator of the last meal at 5.
As he just Murad had just a funny quote from Lawton right now. When you're in the rumors for 5 years straight, it's nice to get some people back with a little bit of trolling. That was him just now in the post-game media availability.
Well, I'm glad they asked him about that. But what I was going to say is the 2 players that I would love to just stay in Winnipeg and play for the Jets are the 2 Travises. I know we were giving Konechny a hard time, but Travis Sanheim, boy, like everybody knows, he was on Team Canada at the Four Nations face-off. But man, is he a good defenseman. Like, he would just look perfect on the Jets blue line. It's not going to happen, though.
27-47 is what he played tonight for the Philadelphia Flyers. You're absolutely right. It's not going to happen. The Flyers tied the game up at 3:48 into the second period. It's a nice give and go. Jamie Drysdale gets his 3rd assist to Noah Cates and Nick Seeler. And, we talked about Cam York missing out on Mark Scheifele on this one. In this instance, Jamie Drysdale just sort of gets away from Gabe Vilardi. I'm not sure what Vilardi, if he's puck watching, but he loses his man, Jamie Drysdale. Drysdale is wide open and has a ton of time and a ton of space right in the slot. And he makes no mistake beating Connor Hellebuck post and in to tie the game up at 1 goal apiece. And that was it. I mean, it was a nice play by Noah Cates. Nice player Noah Cates was. He was noticeable. And, of course, he had the game-saving save for the Flyers in the overtime period. But a nice little give and go between him and Drysdale makes no mistake to tie the game up at 1 goal apiece.
Yeah, and, I'll just jump in here, Dave. I mean, it's a one-on-one situation, right? So I'm not sure what just happened there. That's throwing me off.
Button is what happened.
Okay.
All right.
We can stay at that view if you want. We can do
No.
that. That's the Kenny and Rennie view, Dave. Drew.
No. I'm
You
good.
don't want to do that?
No, I'm good.
I kind of like it.
I don't think so. It's too up close.
Yeah,
And Dave's too low. Look at Dave. He's too low there.
Hold on.
Yeah, you got to go up a little bit.
You go back. What are you doing?
Now I have to go. Hold on. Now I have to go a little bit. Okay,
There you go. Just get going. Talk about the goal.
Okay. It's a one-on-one situation. Like you said, Noah Cates, give and take, give and go, pardon me. Give and take should be the new name of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. That's what it should be.
We're going to take away your ability to do anything on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show if you keep this up.
Yeah, Gabe Velarde just loses Jamie Drysdale. And it's funny, Dave, because obviously you were in the building, as you usually are, for the first 2 periods of each home game. And then, of course, you go back for the third period. But Jamie Drysdale had so much time that he kind of did like an extra little stick handle.
Yeah.
Because he had so much time and space. But it was a beautiful shot. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't mean to pick on Gabe Velarde because he's obviously having a great season. But, that's just a missed assignment on him. And a really nice goal by Drysdale. And you could see there's a reason why the Flyers were willing to part with Cutter Gauthier, in addition to the fact that there was obviously some drama happening off the ice, which our buddy Anthony Sanfilippo was right in the middle of, if you remember correctly. But yeah, just a beautiful goal, but just not very good defending by Velarde there specifically.
That's right. 1-1 at that point in time.
And Drew, I'm not going to add much because as he did it already, but the only thing I would say is for Hellebuck was that he did have to be aware, even though, again, you're right, there's so much space. There are also 2 Flyers right beside the net where if he makes, if Drysdale decides to pass that, it's an easy tap in for them. So, I mean, I'm sure Hellebuck saw them out of the corner of his eye, had to be cognizant of it. But yeah, that's a great rip. Great shot by Jamie Drysdale and ties the game up 1-1.
That's right. And somehow that early in the game, that was it. That was all the goal scoring. There were chances. There were chances for both teams, chances galore. There was the breakaway chance that, who was it? Was it Konechny had the breakaway in the second period, if I recall correctly?
Yep.
That Hellebuck made a nice save. There were chances that the Jets had. There was that great play by Dylan DeMello to break up that 2-on-1 opportunity that the Flyers.
Yes. Although Dylan DeMello also chose to pass up a shot, and then it led to a breakaway attempt right early that was in the second as well, where DeMello kind of like, I don't know, he made that unusual choice. And then
look, there was some sloppiness. The Jets haven't been crisp. I would say they haven't been crisp since they came back from the 4 Nations break. But when you haven't been crisp since then, and you're still putting up victories more often than not, that's a good problem to have.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to make excuses, but the Oilers until tonight, I think they won today, but they had lost 5 straight.
They did.
The Capitals,
they went into Carolina, and they beat Carolina. Tonight or earlier today.
It was this afternoon, I think. And then so you've got the Oilers had lost 5 straight before tonight, and the Capitals have now lost 3 straight. So, again, it's not your best hockey, and we knew it was going to be. Remember, the Jets were humming along. This break came along at a good time in terms of getting Adam Lowry healthy and getting Morgan Barron healthy, but ultimately it did reduce the momentum this team had been building up, and they were able to get the wins. And, again, that's what a very good team does. But there is going to be some element of rust because it's not like it was it wasn't like it was like 4 or 5 days, Ezzy. This was between the 7th and the 22nd. So over 2 weeks, of not kind of playing and practicing together. They did obviously get back on the ice, but my point I'm making is that all the teams are dealing with it, and you're seeing it. You're seeing Dallas has been losing, like all the teams. It's kind of reshuffled the deck a little bit, and it's going to take some time for these teams to kind of get reset and ready to go again. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't know if either of you guys mentioned this, but the Lightning have won 8 games in a row, and they're only, I think, 3 points behind Florida for first in the Atlantic, right? Like Tampa Bay was one of those teams that you were kind of like expecting to be in the playoffs.
With 2 games in hand. Both the Leafs and the Lightning have 2 games in hand on the Florida Panthers.
Well, and I don't think we should be that surprised, right? Like the Lightning are always in the mix in the Eastern Conference, as long as you've got Braden Point and Victor Hedman, Nikita Kucherov, and Vasilevsky in net, not to mention, guys like Hagel and Sorelli who were playing for Team Canada at the 4 Nations, right? It's a good team. I wouldn't want to play them in the first round, that's for sure. But look, sometimes the Jets can get away with playing 2 good periods of hockey or 1.5 good periods of hockey. And tonight they didn't. But again, I mean, it was a coin flip. And like Scott Arniel mentioned when he was answering Mike McIntyre's question, I mean, there were a lot of opportunities in this game where the Jets could have, scored the game winner, and then we'd be talking about something completely different. So that's just the way hockey is sometimes. I think that the way the Jets came out in the third period, they controlled play, I think is very promising, and the way they played in overtime. And the Jets are a very good overtime team. We know that with all the talent they have on the ice. So again, I think this is kind of one where you flush it down the toilet and you get ready for the Isles.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, if the process was terrible and the process was overwhelmingly concerning, it'd be a different story. But 0-1-1, and the process has been good in both of those games. We'll take a commercial break. When we come back, the out-of-town scoreboard. There's some interesting things I want to touch on as we talk about that. It's a Saturday night. This game wasn't the most exciting, but there's some interesting things, and of course, a big trade to discuss as well. So don't go anywhere. More of the Illegal Curve post-game shows still to come. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg. It's brought to you by our friends at Play Now.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling sites instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
9:45. Saturday night, the Illegal Curve post-game show rolls on here, talking about the Jets dropping a 2-1 decision to the Philadelphia Flyers. The Jets next in action on Tuesday. They head back out east to face the New York Islanders on Tuesday. These Flyers again on Thursday, Friday in New Jersey, and then Sunday afternoon, in Carolina. So an Eastern road trip upcoming for the Winnipeg Jets. The most interesting score on the out-of-town scoreboard I want to highlight is that of the St. Louis Blues. They won tonight against
4 in a row?
Well, that is 4 in a row now for the St. Louis Blues. With the victory, they moved to within a point of the Vancouver Canucks. Now, and
I told you.
Tied with the Calgary Flames as well. Now, the Canucks are in action tonight against the Seattle Kraken, if I'm not mistaken. The Canucks had an opportunity earlier in the week to put some separation between them and the teams right behind them, but they lost to the Anaheim Ducks. Tonight against the Seattle Kraken, they're up 2-1 in the first period. Another opportunity. If Vancouver somehow loses to Seattle, boy, oh boy, it's getting a little bit interesting there with Calgary 1 point back, St. Louis now 1 point back, and Utah is also, they're tied 1-1 against the New Jersey Devils. A win by the Utah Hockey Club tonight would actually put them into a tie with the Canucks in terms of points. Vancouver
Told
still
you.
with games in hand, but
Worry about Utah.
Vancouver, Calgary, St. Louis, Utah. It's certainly not what you would describe as a murderer's row, but things are getting interesting for the final playoff spot in the Western Conference. I just wanted to make mention of that here on the post-game show.
Well, and no, it's worth mentioning because
the Jets are going to play one of those teams.
I was going to say most likely. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but the Jets have a nice cushion there in the Western Conference, right? So, I mean, it's going to be, if it's not the Flames or Canucks, it's going to be Utah or St. Louis most likely, right? So it's worth mentioning. And that's what you love, right, guys? I mean, at least that's what I love. I want to see playoff races because let's be honest, you know, the last 15 to 20 games of the season can be a bit of a slog sometimes, right? So we got lots of playoff races. I mean, let's mention Columbus again, 4 wins in a row. Manitoba's specifically.
They won the outdoor game that nobody knew about tonight. 93,000
I was gonna say,
the horseshoe.
Did anybody know that outdoor game was going on? Like, I feel like nobody cares.
Well, 100,000 people in Columbus did, so that's great. Great turnout there. And I mean, these outdoor games are becoming local. They're becoming big local events, but they make no splash on the national stage. I mean,
I think that's accurate. Yeah,
the visuals will be great, and that's great for Columbus, and it's great for a franchise that has always sort of been overlooked. And Columbus is a nice city, and things of that nature. So great for them, and it's so great that they're given the tragedy earlier at the beginning of the year.
Well, did you see the Red Wings came out in the Johnny Gaudreau jerseys? I don't know if you guys saw that. That was just beautiful.
Exactly. So, given that, it's great to see that Columbus is 4 points up. They should be a playoff team.
Well, and you're talking about a team of destiny, right, guys? Like, I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says with what happened with the Gaudreau brothers.
Yeah.
I absolutely want to see the Columbus Blue Jackets in the playoffs. I think that is there's something beautiful about that. I don't care what anybody says. Also, shout out to Dominion City, Manitoba's Denton Matejchuk, who picked up his, I think, third career NHL goal.
He opened
to get that in there.
Yeah, he opened the scoring in the game, in the outdoor game. So that's great for him as well. Exactly right, Ezzy. That's, anyways, they're right behind the New Jersey Devils, only 2 points behind the Devils in the Metropolitan Division. So things.
Well, they have to be one of the best stories. Dean Evison not like right up. Like, I realize Scott.
Well, where's he from, Ezzy?
Well, he is from Flin Flon, but the hometown of my dad, of course. But Dean Evison and John Cooper as well, guys. Like, he's never won the Jack Adams, which I find very surprising.
Yeah, that's hard to believe as well. Anyways, wanted to make mention of those couple of interesting things happening around the NHL tonight. So great to see some nice stories unfolding, and that's certainly one of them. And as we get past the trade deadline, we'll probably keep a closer eye on some of those playoff races as things, the shift of the focus shifts from players being acquired to playoff matchups and things of that nature. So we're beginning, with the trade deadline on Friday, that's beginning to come to fruition. Your thoughts quickly on the Seth Jones trade. So in case anybody missed the Seth Jones, the deal in full, here it is. Seth Jones and a 2026 fourth round pick go to the Florida Panthers. In return, the Blackhawks get a first round pick that will either be 2026, or if the Panthers don't have a 2026 first round pick, it'll become a 2027 first round pick. They get goaltender Spencer Knight as well, and the Blackhawks will retain $2.5 million on the contract for the next 5 seasons. Your thoughts on the trade between the Blackhawks and the Panthers? Dave, you seem like you made a face there, so tell me what your thoughts are.
No, my only face is the retention. I think that's if you're Chicago, you get Spencer Knight, you're hoping you got a goaltender of the future. Sorry, Laurent Brossoit. That's not great for him, of course, but he
hasn't played a game this year.
No, of course. But to me, like, I actually like the trade for both teams. I mean, like I said, wasn't the hugest Seth Jones fan because of his contract isn't good, obviously. And that's still a big number, it's still, Drew, what is his number right now? $6 million for the Panthers?
Yeah, let me look.
$7 million. The thing that I found that was a little bit odd is the insiders were saying 25%, and then they showed it on Sportsnet. Yeah, I was kind of curious why. Like, why would you make it that number?
I think they wanted to get it right to that $7 million mark.
Is that what it was? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So the 7 million mark with the retention, it had to be 26.2348% or something.
To me, it's more just the timeline for Chicago. I mean, you're retaining for the next 5 years. That's a big amount of time for the Blackhawks. Obviously, it hampers your ability for retention in the future. And right now, from that, again, like I said, if you're Connor Bedard and you're the Blackhawks, you've got all this, like they're loaded with young talent. There's only so long that you're going to want to be in that sort of redevelopment mode before you need to start making moves yourself. So 5 years is a long time. And is that what they're saying? Or they're saying, okay, well, the cap's going to go up. So really that's not going to be as impactful. It's just going to be some dead money on the cap. And we're not going to have to worry about it because we're going to have this boost. Maybe that's it. And that's obviously something to be considered. I just think for 5 years to retain, it's a lot. But I mean, look, if you're Chicago, you get a good young goaltender and you get a first round pick.
And Spencer Knight, guys, is only 23 years old. It's I think easy to forget that because he came into the league. I think his first season, he was 19, Dave, if I'm not mistaken. He played 2 years for Boston College, and he's got a decent
13th overall pick back in 2019. So the pedigree is there.
Well, and he's got 12 wins this year, Drew. Yeah. Like it's not and he was in the player assistance program, so we got to mention that in there. Obviously, a lot of respect for players that go through that. Obviously, Patrick Laine as well. So he's had some tough times early on in his career, right? And he's managed to persevere. So, like Dave said, I mean, there's things to like about both of these trades. Both of these players that are moving. It's a big price tag for the Panthers, but obviously we know the Panthers, they're in first in the Atlantic. They have playoff aspirations, and that beefs up their blue line. I haven't been following the Panthers enough to know if there's been any injuries there, which maybe that's why they acquired Seth Jones. But I mean, Seth Jones, even though I'd say he's regressed in his career, he can still move the puck. Like, he's a great skater and he provides offense. I think where the criticism has come with Seth Jones is his defending. He's had trouble defending off the rush. So I think that might have scared some teams away, in addition to Drew, as Dave mentioned. I mean, $9.5 million, that's a massive price tag for a guy that's, let's be honest, he's not a number one or number two defenseman. I think his ceiling now is a second pair guy.
Yeah, and he's going to fit in on that second pair. He's going to play behind Aaron Ekblad. I mean, the Panthers D, the Panthers D before this trade, I would say would not be good enough to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, you had Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad. That's a perfectly fine top pair. And then you had a big hole on that second side. You had Dmitry Kulikov playing in an elevated role. Now everybody gets bumped down one. The $7 million, the cap hit, it's more than you'd love for him, I think, but the cap's going up. The percentage of the hit on the cap. Look, I think it's a worthwhile move, and from Chicago's perspective, look, that first round pick is not going to be an NHL player until 2030, more than likely. That's when we're talking about that pick maybe making an impact, if Florida continues to pick at the end of the first round, like most people expect them to. So Spencer Knight is the linchpin for that trade from Chicago's perspective, to see if he can become a bona fide starting goaltender. But Chicago's still such a tire fire of an organization and as a team that I'm not sure that Spencer Knight with they did not a very good team in front of him, let's say, is all of a sudden going to be able to succeed in that role. Just interesting that today we begin to see the log jam of the trades begin to loosen up, of course, with the Gus Nyquist going to Minnesota.
I thought that trade between Colorado and the Rangers was interesting, Dave.
Sure.
Because Ryan Lindgren is a guy that Drew mentioned a few weeks ago, left shot defenseman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy Vesey, who it seems like Jimmy Vesey's been moved a lot.
Yeah,
after being that prize free agent,
after beating Kyle Connor for the whatchamacallit,
Hobey Baker.
Dave won't let that go. Dave won't let that go. And honestly, Kyle Connor got robbed. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. Well, that's what we in the mid to west call Eastern bias, because I don't know how you could have watched him play in Michigan.
The Hobey Baker goes to a guy who's always been a 3 or a 4 year player in college hockey, that they don't like going into a freshman.
I understand.
They can avoid it as much as
Do you
possible.
remember back in the day, you had that friend? I don't know if you still are in touch with him.
We had Chris Bunnell is his name. He was the chairman of the Hobey Baker.
Hey, he was on our show. I remember.
He was on the show.
He wouldn't come on the show again after I told him that he robbed Kyle Connor.
We still follow each other on online. He's a good guy. But yeah, he was the chairman of the Hobie Baker committee, and he, last I checked, he still follows the show. So maybe Chris, if you're watching, all is forgiven. Time.
What do we have to do to win the Hobie Baker Award this year, Chris?
But anyways, that trade, to your point, there is Ryan Lindgren and Jimmy Vesey going from the Rangers to Colorado, and then going back to Colorado. Going back to the Rangers is Calvin DeHaan, Juuso Parssinen, and some draft compensation. I believe a second-round pick.
There were two picks, I think.
I'll be honest, guys. I forgot Calvin DeHaan was on Colorado.
Yeah.
Wait, he's not still on the Islanders?
Exactly. No, he's not. But 3 trades today. So it's interesting from Colorado's perspective. They're just trying to figure out. They need something on that. In terms of their depth. In terms of their depth on their defense. Ryan Lindgren was really struggling in New York. Maybe they're hoping bring him into Colorado and he's able to sort of recapture a portion of his game that he used to have. And Jimmy Vesey is forward depth. That's what he is at this point of his career. And that there's not an untapped offensive upside there waiting for him.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado's more active. We know that, Joey Sakic and Chris McFarland, we talked about, the trades back in 2022, right, Dave? Josh Manson, Arturi Lehkonen, those were the big moves that they made prior to the trade deadline that year that they won the Cup. So Colorado's one of those teams that I have an eye on. But, this time of year, guys, you got to have an eye on everybody. Dave keeps talking about Mikko Rantanen. Like, wouldn't that be amazing if he was traded like a month after he was like, you just don't see top 10 players in the league move like that. You just, and so, I'm all for it. Like Drew said during this morning show, like, this is crazy season. Let's get crazy, boys.
Well, it's also what would say is Tom Dundon, who's the coach of the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, has far too much. He's got his fingers too much in the pie of all the decision making in Carolina. If he insists that Rantanen gets traded again, if you're Carolina, you've already acquired him. Load up. You can win the East. There's no reason why you can't go far with Rantanen and win the East and try with the Panthers banged up and Matthew Tkachuk banged up. There's no reason why that can't be your year to finally get over the hump.
I'm with you. I think you keep him, even if you don't know for sure, because Elliot Friedman talked about it during Saturday headlines with Ron McLean, right, guys? I'm sure you saw that.
I haven't seen it yet.
They were saying that right now the contract has been offered to Rantanen, but they don't expect Rantanen's camp, whoever his agent is, I don't know who his agent is, they don't know if they're going to accept it, right? So I think at this point, if you're Carolina, like Drew said, the East is completely wide open. So just keep him, and then, but obviously there's the concern that you lose him for nothing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next 5 days.
Yeah, it'll be a fun 5 days as it always is. And we will, of course, bring you all the latest of it here on Illegal Curve, be it on the website or on our post-game show or any special pop-up editions of the Illegal Curve hockey show that need to come about because of moves made by the Winnipeg Jets. Dave, you want to do a Minuk Moose Minute real quick about the Moose game?
It'll be a quick one.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve hockey show.
The bumper always gets me. I don't know why. I don't know why I always laugh at it. But anyways, Moose in action.
Dave, that's a little bit narcissistic.
I'm sorry, Ezzy. Usually you hit it so I can think about it. But anyways, the point is Manitoba Moose closing out the 6-game road trip in Toronto. Once again, Anthony was joining Daniel Fink in the broadcast booth because Anthony, of course, used to be the number 2 guy with the Moose, moved back home. So we had
hold on a second. Anthony Sanfilippo did color for the Moose.
Anthony Fusco, Fusco Nation. So it was a member of Fusco Nation, but it was good timing for me because the Moose game started at 4 and it ended just as I'm sitting in the press box watching the Moose game, watch the third period there. So that was good at Canada Life. The Moose, I got to tell you, the officiating, though, in the HL today was not good. And I know Partisan Paul said he was at the game, so he will be able to attest to that. Brad Lambert, the Jets prospect, thought he scored a goal on the power play in the first period. The refs called it no goal because of goaltender interference, because Mason Shaw was there in front of the net. The only problem was he wasn't in the blue paint. You guys would not have liked it. But shortly thereafter, Mason Shaw, he gets some revenge. He scores to make it a 1-0 hockey game. Unfortunately for the Moose, a minute 39 later, the Marlies tied it because of a bit of inattention to detail, as Drew would like to say. There's some good chances. Dominic Tonnato, he had a really good chance. Elias Salamonson, he had an excellent chance. Neither team could find the back of the net again. So guess what this game needed, boys? This game needed something called a shootout. And I can tell you right now, I don't understand. I actually don't understand how they didn't score in the overtime before I get to the shootout, how they didn't score in overtime, because there was one play where the puck ended up behind Dom DiVincentis. I don't know how it stayed out of the net. Like the physics, none of it made sense. It was on a power play for the Marlies because they had a chance. Mason Shaw got hit with an interference call. Doesn't go. There was a big brawl at the end. Dominic Tonnato got tossed down. So the teams fought. The refs kind of let it go. Very weird. And then the Dominic DiVincentis, I guess he was a little gassed. So the Marlies scored on their first two chances. And sure enough, Brad Lambert had to extend it. He had to score, wasn't able to do so. So the Moose pick up a shootout loss. So they ended up 3-2-1 on this, or 3-2-0-1, because of course that's the way they factored in the AHL. So they return home with more wins and more points than one would expect from a team that's been playing the way they are, but most likely a little too late. And I should mention, over in the ECHL, Thomas Milic, he got his second straight win. He had a shutout yesterday, and he had a 3-1 victory for Norfolk today. So back-to-back wins for goaltending prospect, 2023 fifth rounder Thomas Milic.
There you go, Dave M with the Minuk Moose Minute. And I believe, if I saw correctly on Instagram, and it was a post from today, Kevin He had a hat trick today. I think I saw the Jets put that up on their Instagram, unless that's old.
Drew scooped you there.
You did. Well, you know what? I do have. It's funny. I had the OHL page pulled up. Kevin He did, in fact, have a hat trick, Drew. So well done, Mindell. I will clip it before you get a chance to. So you're not.
I promise you, I won't clip it.
I know.
You can take the rest of your life, and you still will beat me until I clip for clipping it.
He also had a goal, so he had a 4-point game, which has been good because he's been a little bit silent. He's been getting some points, but not a ton of points. So Kevin He shows up bigly, the 2024 fourth rounder, and then I'll check quickly. I don't think Lethbridge is in action. Oh, they were in action. 5-1, Drew. How come you didn't pay attention to that? They beat Regina, and Braden Yager had 1 assist. Oh, 2 assists. So 2 assists for Braden Yager, the 2023 first rounder, of the Winnipeg Jets.
That's it for us tonight on the Illegal Curve
Pittsburgh Penguins
show. Big thank. Yes, it was a draft pick of the Penguins.
Fine.
You're right.
I never said a draft pick. Didn't I say a prospect?
You did, yes. That's
true.
Yes. Big thanks to all of you for joining us. Big thanks to everybody who joined us this morning as well. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us feedback, and of course, turn your notifications on. Big thanks to our sponsors, Play Now, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Holt Dental, Boston Pizza, City Place, and of course, our friends at Seagram support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. We'll be back on Tuesday night for our next edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show. That's going to be right about 8:45 p.m. Until then, for Dave Minuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mindell. Thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow @IllegalCurve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.